3 years ago, my husband Robert died suddenly of a heart attack. We'd been married 48 years. He was my best friend, my partner, my everything. One morning, he woke up, said he felt a tightness in his chest, and 2 hours later, he was gone. Just like that. No warning, no goodbye, no time to prepare. I was 73 years old and suddenly, devastatingly alone for the first time since I was 25. The grief was unbearable. But what almost destroyed me wasn't the grief. It was the 5 catastrophic mistakes I made in the year after he died. Mistakes that cost me money, health, relationships, and nearly my will to live. I'm 76 now. I've survived. I've rebuilt. And I'm sharing this story because if you're facing the loss of your spouse, or you know someone who is, these mistakes can be avoided. The first year after losing your husband or wife is the most dangerous year of your life. The decisions you make, or don't make, in that year will determine whether you survive and eventually thrive, or whether you spiral into depression, isolation, and decline. I made every mistake in the book. Let me tell you what they were, so you don't have to learn the hard way, like I did. My name is Margaret Sullivan. Everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 76 years old, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the house Robert and I bought 40 years ago. We raised 3 kids here, Sarah, Michael, and Jennifer. We have 7 grandchildren. Robert was a civil engineer. I was a high school English teacher for 32 years. We retired together at 65, looking forward to traveling, spending time with grandkids, enjoying life. We had 11 good years. Then one morning in February 3 years ago, everything changed. Robert woke up and said, "Maggie, my chest feels tight." I called 911. The ambulance came. They rushed him to the hospital. By the time I got to the emergency room, a doctor was walking toward me with that look. "I'm so sorry," he said. "We did everything we could." Robert was gone, 60 minutes from chest pain to dead. I was a widow at 73. The grief was indescribable. I felt like half of me had been ripped away. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I walked around the house in a fog, touching his things, unable to believe he was really gone. Friends and family surrounded me those first few weeks. They brought food, sat with me, helped with funeral arrangements. But eventually, everyone went back to their lives. And I was alone. Truly, devastatingly alone. And in that fog of grief and shock, I made 5 terrible mistakes. Mistakes I see other widows and widowers make all the time. Mistakes that are so common, so predictable, and so avoidable if someone just warns you. So let me warn you. If you've lost your spouse, or you're watching someone go through this, pay attention. These 5 mistakes nearly destroyed me. Don't let them destroy you. Mistake 1, I sold our house. Within 6 months, this was the biggest, most expensive mistake I made, and I did it because everyone told me it was the right thing to do. This house is too big for you now, Maggie. It's too much to maintain. You need a fresh start. You should move closer to one of the kids. You should downsize to a condo. Everyone had an opinion. And in my grief-stricken, exhausted, unable to think clearly state, I listened. I put the house on the market 4 months after Robert died. It sold in 3 weeks. I moved into a small 2-bedroom condo across town, and within 2 months, I realized I'd made a catastrophic mistake. I hated the condo. It didn't feel like home. It felt sterile, empty, wrong. I missed my house, the garden Robert and I had planted together, the kitchen where we'd cooked thousands of meals, the living room where our kids and grandkids gathered for holidays. I'd given all of that up because people told me to, because I thought I was supposed to, and I did it while I was still in shock, still grieving, still not capable of making major life decisions. Research backs this up. Every grief counselor, every financial advisor who works with widows and widowers says the same thing. Do not make major life decisions in the first year after losing your spouse. Your brain is not functioning normally. You're in survival mode. You're not capable of rational, long-term thinking. And yet, I did it anyway. The financial loss was significant. I sold in a buyer's market, underpriced, because I just wanted it done. I lost equity. The condo was expensive, HOA fees, special assessments. But worse than the money was the emotional cost. I'd erased Robert from my life. His workshop, gone. His favorite chair didn't fit, so I donated it. The garden he'd loved, someone else's now. If you're reading this and you've recently lost your spouse, please hear me. Do not sell your house in the first year. Do not make that decision while you're grieving. Wait, give yourself time. If after a year or 18 months you still want to move, fine. But don't do it in month 4 or 6 when you're still in shock. I know the house feels big. I know it's full of memories, but those memories are all you have left. Don't erase them in a moment of weakness. Mistake 2. I tried to handle all the financial and legal stuff immediately. In the weeks after Robert died, I was drowning in paperwork. Death certificates, insurance claims, bank accounts, retirement accounts, Social Security, the mortgage, bills. Robert had handled most of our finances. I knew the basics, but I didn't know everything. And suddenly, I was supposed to figure it all out, while I could barely function. Everyone told me I needed to get it all sorted out right away, so I tried. I spent hours on the phone with banks, insurance companies, Social Security. I tried to understand documents I'd never seen before. I made decisions about money I didn't fully understand, and I made mistakes. I cashed out one of Robert's retirement accounts early and paid a massive tax penalty because I didn't understand the rules. I made a decision about his pension that locked me into a lower monthly payment than I should have taken. I didn't consult a financial advisor because I thought I could figure it out myself, and because I didn't want to spend the money. Those mistakes cost me tens of thousands of dollars, money I can't get back. And it all happened because I tried to do too much, too fast, while I was grieving and not thinking clearly. Here's what I should have done. Hire professionals immediately: a financial advisor, an estate attorney, a CPA. Yes, they cost money, but they will save you far more than they cost. They will help you navigate the complexity, avoid penalties, make smart decisions. Do not try to do this alone while you're grieving. You will make expensive mistakes. Also, give yourself permission to take your time with non-urgent financial decisions. Yes, you need to notify Social Security and claim life insurance. Yes, you need to pay bills. But you don't need to decide what to do with every retirement account in the first month. Take your time, get help. Protect yourself from making decisions you'll regret. Mistake 3. I isolated myself from friends and family. In the months after Robert died, people reached out constantly. Friends called. My kids called every day. People invited me to lunch, to church, to events. And I said no to almost everything. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to be the sad widow everyone felt sorry for. I wanted to be alone with my grief, so I withdrew. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped going to church. I stopped seeing friends. I stayed home, alone, day after day. At first, people kept trying, but eventually, they stopped calling. They assumed I wanted to be left alone. Within 6 months, I was completely isolated. I had no social life, no one checking on me, no one to talk to except my kids on their weekly obligation calls. And the isolation made everything worse. The depression deepened. The loneliness was crushing. I started having dark thoughts, What's the point of living? Research shows that social isolation after losing a spouse is one of the biggest predictors of decline and early death in widows and widowers. A study from JAMA Internal Medicine found that widowed individuals who isolate have significantly higher rates of depression, cognitive decline, physical health problems, and mortality. Loneliness literally kills, and I was killing myself with it. What saved me was my daughter Jennifer. She showed up one day unannounced, took one look at me, and said, "Mom, this isn't grief anymore. This is depression, and you're not doing this alone." She made me an appointment with a therapist. She started coming over twice a week to take me out, errands, lunch, walks, anything to get me out of the house. She reconnected me with friends from church. Slowly, painfully, I rebuilt my social connections, and it saved my life. If you've lost your spouse, please don't do what I did. Don't isolate. I know it's hard. I know you don't feel like seeing people, but force yourself. Say yes to invitations even when you don't feel like it. Stay connected to your community, your church, your friends. Join a grief support group. It helps to be around people who understand. Social connection is not optional. It's survival. Don't isolate yourself. It will destroy you. Mistake 4. I tried to skip the grief process. Everyone kept telling me to be strong, stay positive, keep busy, don't dwell on it. So I tried. I pushed the grief down. I didn't cry. I didn't talk about Robert. I threw myself into staying busy, cleaning, organizing, projects. I thought if I just kept moving, I wouldn't have to feel the pain. I was wrong. Grief doesn't go away because you ignore it. It just builds up until it explodes. 6 months after Robert died, I had a complete breakdown. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't function. My doctor diagnosed me with major depression and put me on antidepressants. I started therapy, and my therapist said something that changed my perspective. "Maggie, grief is not something to get over. It's something to move through, and the only way through is to feel it." I'd been trying to skip grief, to go from husband died to I'm fine without the messy, painful stuff in between. It doesn't work that way. Grief has stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. You can't skip them. You have to move through them. And that means feeling the pain, crying the tears, talking about your loss, honoring your grief. I started allowing myself to grieve. I cried when I needed to. I talked about Robert, the good and the hard. I looked at photos. I visited his grave. I wrote letters to him. It was painful, but it was also healing. And slowly, gradually, the crushing weight of grief started to lift. Not because I was over it, but because I was moving through it. If you've lost your spouse, give yourself permission to grieve. Don't let anyone tell you to be strong or move on. Grieve in your own time, in your own way. Cry, talk, feel. It's not weakness, it's healing. And if the grief becomes overwhelming, if you're having thoughts of self-harm, if you can't function, please get help. Talk to your doctor, see a therapist, join a support group. You don't have to do this alone. Mistake 5. I completely neglected my own health. In the year after Robert died, I stopped taking care of myself. I barely ate. I stopped exercising. I stopped going to the doctor. I missed my annual physical, my mammogram, my dental cleaning. I just didn't care. My health wasn't a priority. I was just trying to survive each day. The consequences were severe. I lost 25 pounds because I wasn't eating. I developed high blood pressure from stress. My cholesterol went up. I was exhausted all the time. My daughter finally dragged me to the doctor, who ran tests and told me I was in bad shape. Mrs. Sullivan, you're grieving, and I understand that. But you're also killing yourself. You have to take care of your body. Research shows that the first year after losing a spouse is extremely dangerous for the surviving partner's health. A study from Harvard found that widows and widowers have a 41% higher risk of dying in the first 6 months after their spouse dies. The widowhood effect. The stress of grief suppresses the immune system, raises blood pressure, increases inflammation, and increases risk of heart attack, stroke, and other serious health problems. I had to make a conscious decision to prioritize my health. I started eating regular meals again, even when I didn't feel hungry. I started walking every morning, even when I didn't feel like it. I went back to the doctor for checkups. I took my medications. I started sleeping better. Slowly, my physical health improved. And as my physical health improved, my mental health improved too. If you've lost your spouse, please don't neglect yourself. I know you don't feel like eating. I know you don't feel like exercising, but your body needs care, especially now. Eat regular meals, stay hydrated, move your body, keep your medical appointments, take your medications. Your health is not optional. If you destroy your health while you're grieving, you won't recover. Take care of yourself. What I wish I'd known then, if I could go back and talk to myself 3 years ago, in those first devastating weeks after Robert died, here's what I would say. First, don't make major decisions for at least a year. Don't sell the house. Don't move. Don't give away all his things. Wait until the fog lifts. Second, hire professionals to help with financial and legal matters. Don't try to figure it out alone. It will cost you more in mistakes than it costs to hire help. Third, stay connected. Say yes to invitations even when you don't feel like it. Don't isolate. You need people. Fourth, allow yourself to grieve. Don't try to be strong or skip the pain. Feel it. Cry. Talk about it. Move through it, not around it. Fifth, take care of your health. Eat, sleep, move, see doctors. Your body is under enormous stress, and finally, it gets better. Not quickly, not easily, but it does get better. 3 years later, I still miss Robert every single day, but I'm no longer drowning. I've rebuilt my life. I have relationships, activities, purpose. I'm okay. And if you're going through this, you will be okay too. But you have to avoid these mistakes. You have to protect yourself during that dangerous first year. I joined a grief support group at my church. Those Thursday evening meetings became my lifeline. I started volunteering at the local library, reading to elementary school kids every Tuesday. I got professional financial help from an advisor who specialized in widows. I returned to therapy with a grief counselor. I committed to walking every morning. Month by month, I started feeling like myself again. Not the same self, but a new version. A widow, yes, but also still a mother, grandmother, friend, volunteer, a person with value and purpose. About 18 months after Robert died, I met a man named Frank at my grief support group. He'd lost his wife 2 years earlier. We started having coffee, then dating. I felt crushing guilt at first. But my counselor said, loving someone new doesn't mean you loved Robert any less. Your heart can grow. Robert would want you to be happy. Frank and I have been together for 1.5 years now. We're companions. It's different from my marriage to Robert, quieter, simpler, but it's good, and I'm grateful. If you're watching this and you have a parent who's recently lost their spouse, be patient with them. Don't pressure them to make big decisions. Show up. Call regularly. Help them get professional support. And when they're ready to start living again, support them. Don't make them feel guilty for moving forward. If you're reading this because you've recently lost your husband or wife, hear this clearly. You will survive. The first year is hell. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have bad days. But if you can avoid these 5 big mistakes, you'll come out in much better shape than I did. Get support. Take care of your body. Allow yourself to grieve. And know this, it does get better. The grief never completely goes away, but the crushing weight does ease. And eventually, you realize you've had an entire day where you felt okay, maybe even happy. Robert and I had 48 beautiful years together. I'm so grateful for every one of them. But I also have life left to live, and I'm choosing to live it fully, in his memory and in honor of the love we shared. You can too. Thank you for letting me share my story. If it helps even one person avoid the mistakes I made, it was worth it. Please leave a comment below. Share your own story. Let other widows and widowers know they're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about navigating life in our later years. And if you know someone who's recently lost their spouse, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. You will survive this, I promise.